Welcome to those who have just joined us. We'll start things off with the karakia. Mauri ora kia mātou, arahina mātou ia mātou mahi. Ke mihia hia hua rahi mō te kaupapa o te mātauranga hangarau. A whina atu, a whina mai. Te pau e here nei ia mātou. Hui e, tae ki e. We are delighted to introduce Leland Ruwhiu, nai tū tiaru, te whānau Hunara and Ngāti Rākau Paiwai, a dedicated advocate for Māori success in STEM education. Leland leads the nationwide delivery of the Pūhoro kaupapa into secondary schools as part of Te Uranga 2 phase, empowering rangatahi to explore and excel in STEM pathways. Since guiding the very first cohort of 97 students in 2016, Leland has witnessed many of them graduate and embark on promising careers across STEM fields, making a lasting impact on their communities. With deep roots in his culture and never far from a tea towel, hangi pit or his dive gear, Leland weaves his personal passions, pūrākau and pūrau into STEM journeys of rangatahi, connecting aspirations to authentic Māori narratives. Today, he mentors and supports a remarkable team of kaihotu, ensuring even more rangatahi across the motu thrive through Pūhoro's kaupapa. And I'm going to hand over to Leland.
Tēnā tātou otira kei te kaikarakia me o ngā manaakitanga o te wāki a koe me era kupu haumaru i rungi a tātou. Ko wai tēnei tika tau e pip, e uri tēnei no te nota, ngai tū te aru, i te tawa o tuku pāps, i te tā anō o tuku pāpa no te tai rāwhiti ki te whānua hunara, ai te tahu tuku māma no konei, te papai oia, Ngāti Rākau Paiwai. Tēnei e mihi ana kia koutou e whakarongo mai nei. Kia ora everybody, my name is Leland Ruwhiu, and very happy to be joining you all this afternoon. And hopefully you find some of our kōrero today interesting and up your alley when it comes to some of the areas that I'm really passionate about. And some of the areas that I'm working alongside some amazing people with to challenge some of the narratives around Māori engagement in STEM subjects. Ora kei te mihi. Got a presentation I want to start with, and I will just get that on screen for us. Pūhoro actually began as a Māori Science Academy back in its genesis late in the year of 2015. A lot of questions were being asked by our host organisation, Massey University, about where a number of our Māori students were across the different programs, heaps in the social sciences, plenty in the sport and exercise programs, a good chunk in business. But when it came to some of those fundamental science programs, there were quite small numbers of Māori engaging in those programs. And so the question was asked, well, how do we improve that? We were given some leeway through the Vice-Chancellor at the time, the Deputy and Vice-Chancellor, Steve Mahari at the time, and Deputy Vice-Chancellor Māori Pacifica, Selwyn Katini, through our founder, Naomi Manu, to look at what some of those options were. And so we actually started with a really simple exercise. We got our first year program paper coordinators across some of the fundamental science programs to sit in the room with our local high school science faculties and sort of worked our way backwards. Here's a list of level 3 credits at the time, Chem Bio, Physics and Math. What would best position a student in terms of pathwaying into university programs? And so working our way backwards, we soon realized that there was a pathway that we could look at supporting here. And so that's where Pūhoro really took its roots in that effort to grow the number of Māori engaging in a landscape that not many Māori were. Probably just want to speak to the 4 values that I've noted at the bottom there. And these have really stood us in good stead in terms of how we've carried our kaupapa, our program. And I'll probably lean into them a little bit later on in the presentation. But tūhonotanga essentially speaks to connections and the power in that. Ukaipōtanga literally refers to a nursing mother providing the night feeds to her offspring, and so it's a tip of the hat to this idea that your roots, your ancestry, has a place in the discussion here. Māuitanga. Maui was a lot of things. And one of the things that we lean into is his different natures that made him engage in lots of different spaces, that curiosity, that hautatu, or that, what's another word for hautatu? Yeah, I'll maybe go by Māori dictionary, that word hautatu. Normally your mokos or your children might adopt some of those attributes at times. Ngā kaupono is around and amongst all this pulling together of people to see what a program with rangatahi Māori and STEM might look like, making sure that we're really driven by doing what we can that's right, and it being right for rangatahi and their whānau. I mentioned I've got an amazing team that I work alongside with and that I have been led by. We've recently had our bottom photos there are our Pūhoro Charitable Trust board, and just in the last month we've had Dr. Farah Palmer join that amazing a group of spearheads for our program. Got an amazing team around the country doing some hard yards, very much like yourselves in schools, and working alongside whānau, even in the current climate of what that looks like. And so I just wanted to mihi to the team that is putting in the yards. The model itself, we really needed to move away from some of that flash in the fry pan approach to engaging Māori in STEM. And so we hone in on 3 phases in Pūhoro. And as Pip mentioned, the area that I look after is Te Uringa 2, which is that green strand, which looks after basically our secondary school engagement. And we begin with rangatahi at year 11, or for some of us, 5th form, who remember. And generally speaking, across the high schools, that's the last year that, broadly speaking, across the high schools, that science is compulsory. And I guess the last year to have an influence on keeping them engaged with science into level 2 and level 3. Te Uringa Pai, indicated by the blue strand, is all of those post-secondary school options that lead into the STEM sector. And they're far and wide. They're domestic, they're international. They don't always look like a straight line for our rangatahi. So that's a more recent role that I've stepped into in addition to our secondary school space. and a growing area for us as well. Te Ringa Tapu is where a lot of our students who I first embarked on this journey with in 2016 are now heading, and I'll probably speak to a few of them in shortly. But it's basically how we support our rangatahi into the workforce. So those are the three phases of pūhoro. Pūhoro also meaning coming from an artistic design that Māori have, and quite commonly seen alongside the vowel of waka, also tattooed on our on the thighs and buttocks, and it normally denotes speed, strength. Got a few words there: acceleration, advancement, getting from A to B, and that's the if you break down the word pūhoro, ko te mea, ko te pū is around the source of something, and the horo is the shimmer out. And so if you imagine a stone into a puddle of water, a pond of water, and how that reverberates out, is the name that was gifted to pūhoro all those years ago. We've adopted the idea of a waka, and we had he waka eke noa first before I think COVID come through and decided to adopt that motif, that saying, that whakatauki. And what we mean by it is being united in purpose. And I'll step into a few of those layers again further along in this presentation. We see ourselves as paddling alongside lots of people in a waka alongside our rangatahi, in the hopes that in the future they'll be the ones spearheading that paddling. And so, yeah, that's our model. Some of the engagement that we look at is through wānanga. I've got a video coming up that'll show a little bit about what that looks like. We partner with schools to be able to meet these groups of rangatahi weekly, and we run fortnightly alternating between kaihotu sessions and pūhoro tutorials. Kaihotu sessions really lean into some of those transferable skills that aren't just beneficial to somebody embarking on science study, but actually anyone on a learning journey. And probably quite importantly, we hone in on tuakiritanga, which essentially is the helping our rangatahi to become confident in who they are. It's a lot of fun, team. We have an amazing group of staff that visit with these rangatahi, establish connections, and over the course of those senior years, year 11, year 12, year 13, really get to know these rangatahi, get to be part of their journey, and very much like our teaching whānau, just become embedded in that idea of everyone paddling alongside for the benefit of our rangatahi. The alternating week, we bring in tutors, and what's been quite humbling and quite amazing to see is a lot of our rangatahi who are now in tertiary study or in employment are actually coming back to do tutoring in our high schools. For us, it's quite a beautiful community, a beautiful circle of rangatahi giving back, and sort of ushering in that next generation of young people coming through. As we get closer to, the pinch points of the year with examinations and all of what that brings, we lean into study noho, and yeah, they're pretty intense, and we've got some wonderful partners that assist us with that, and we just do a little quick shout out to Learn Coach, get to me. Whānau engagements, for anyone that's seeing the power that this has. You know, it's definitely something that we know works. Half the battle won, really, if you've got whānau backing you as well. If you've got whānau in that waka rowing alongside you. Ka aroha ki te rangatahi i nā kai a koe, ona mātua ki tō taha. Yeah, unfortunately, that young person becomes the victim of the aspirations of those around them, and so I must take my hat off to this idea that engaging with whānau really does put a bit of a tailwind on you to make progress through these academic journeys in high school. I talked about wānanga. When we're in a region and operating, we're normally in between 8 to 12 schools. In each of those schools, we could have anywhere from 10 to 15 year 11s, year 12s and year 13s. And once a term, we bring them together and we call these our wānanga. And we have heaps of them. They're pretty hearty events where we merge them. We merge them because it removes some of those inter-school conversations and rivalries, if you would, and it really embeds this idea of creating a Māori STEM community of rangatahi. And you can see a few of these images from around the country of when we host these events. We also bring in industry to come and support these and provide hands-on sessions. And like I've been saying most of this presentation, I'm really keen to lean into a few of those hands-on sessions that we've also developed as a kaupapa that we think hits the mark for anyone trying to engage rangatahi in STEM content. I might just jump into a quick video here, which I'm hoping our sound will come right for.
Leland, just not hearing the sound at the moment. Oh, there we go.
All of us to come to this wānanga to celebrate Māori mind. It's really important that we provide opportunities to students for our rangatahi who are at different levels of engagement with science.
I think it's pretty cool, like for a rangatahi to come out and just get out of class but still be learning somewhere else and with other schools. I haven't been in this like opportunity before, so it's good to see everyone getting together. Right?
What we wanted to do with these rangatahi is to support schools in the way that they engage rangatahi within the curriculum by providing a space where things can be taught slightly differently that will then hopefully have an impact in the classroom.
Because they don't actually do actual physical things like that. Excuse me. This is the human. See, it's amazing. Right. Thank you.
A lot of them come with expectations of it was going to be boring. You know what I mean? Because that's what year 9s and 10s do. And then you see them and they're all working together.
Pūhoro has been a really significant step forward in saying leadership resides in all of us. It's not just about those who are senior in age or those who have been elected into leadership. Leadership begins with ngā rangatira o a pōpō. Wānau ora is about saying collective leadership takes place when we listen to our tamariki and our mokopuna, give us new insights about some old problems.
My future is like working with my iwi and helping the upcoming rangatahi after me understand that they have their whakapapa that they can learn. They have a say in what they can do and they are heard no matter what.
Awesome, whānau. So that was a wānanga that we hosted in Christchurch a few years back. And you'll notice there we were at Ara Institute of Technology. Helen Leahy at the time was heading Pūtahitanga and was a key funder for us moving into the Ōtautahi region. And so I think it really just goes back to, you know, a lot of people banding together to get behind a kaupapa like this. And obviously you'll see some of the challenges there, hands-on, engaging, and surprisingly fun for some of our rangatahi who perhaps weren't anticipating a fun time in the STEM space. In terms of achievement and impact, it's always good to put a few of these runs on the board. But I think what I really want to hone in on is what some of these numbers and some of these things actually mean. And this is what it actually means, whānau. It means that there will be rangatahi who are jumping into spaces that they would have never have considered had it not been for opportunities like this. Mishka Seyfritz from Fielding High School was definitely not considering university at the time, and has since gone on to do a BA in Māori and Environmental Studies. She began her Masters and then got picked up into a research entity, and more recently has actually come back to Pūhoro and is now leading out our regional engagement in the Rotorua. Luke August in the middle, Palmerston North Boys High School, another OG of the program, actually donned his gown last week for the second time around, having completed his master's study of engineering at the University of Waikato, and that was preceded by his Bachelor of Engineering, Mechanical Engineering in the University of Canterbury. He's currently on his doctoral studies, and probably one thing I just want to speak to, if he's ever watching this, is just a mihi to you, bro, and your parents. When we had Pūhoro events, it wasn't uncommon for Luke's whānau to be involved. In fact, I remember one whānau day we had his old man on the barbecue doing the old sausages for our rangatahi that were new to the program. And so I just want to mihi to Luke. Finally on the right we have Michaela Kahi, who's currently, as you can see from the pic, working through her medical studies up in Auckland. This is what it actually means to impact, I think. And while we can focus on some of the you know, the finer details, what we should never lose sight of is actually the trajectory it can put some of our young people on. And I'm sure you all have experiences of rangatahi you've worked with who are just smashing it. And so I'm really glad I've got this slide, and actually a bit of a throwback for me. Moving on. This sort of is delving into our second phase, our Te Urunga Pai phase, and it's part of a broader offering of services for our rangatahi who have finished high school and who are looking at a range of post-secondary school options, some directly into the workforce, some into apprenticeships, some into our polytechs, our institutes of technology, the defence forces, as well as our universities. And one of the things that we're really proud of is a summer internship program that we run. Last year we had a pretty hearty cohort of rangatahi being placed all around the country on 10-week internships that they got to choose in terms of being relevant to the degrees that they're on. It's no easy feat to engage 35 different hosts and funders to make that all happen. But I tell you what, whānau, the stories that come out of these young people who are doing the yards during the year for their studies and are now putting some of that into, you know, technical application, and enhancing and growing and building those technical skills is hugely rewarding to be a part of. Just stepping back to that initial wānanga video, you would have noticed that we had engaging STEM challenges, and I would like to jump into a few of the challenges that we've implored, that we've utilised to help our program engage with rangatahi, to help our program spark that interest. And just on that, when we work with high schools, we partner with them, and we do work with a lot who are on that cusp of sticking with or dropping science. And that's the only way you're really going to grow the pipeline, is to definitely provide support to those who know where they want to go, but impacting those that are on that borderline of sticking with or dropping science is really a space that we need to be working in if we want to grow it. Wānanga Māpūro. All right. This actually started off as a trip to one of our partners, Google, in Sydney. They host a partners conference, and while there, they connected us to one of their other partners, who was the Science and Engineering Challenge, which is hosted by the University of Newcastle, and they run an amazing program. I think over 200 events throughout the year around the country, and culminating in a final in Dubbo annually. Amazing event, and it was very inspiring. So inspiring, in fact, that we brought them to New Zealand. Now that was a mish, because half the gear that they had, we weren't able to get onto the plane, and so there was lots of working arounds to get these challenges, one, fit for being able to run an event here in New Zealand for our rangatahi, but two, also regionalising some of the content. So a few of their challenges that they had were for contexts within their country. So we tried to regionalise those to an Aotearoa New Zealand context. Amazing, engaging, as you'd imagine. Reminds me of the BP technology challenges, for those of us that remember those awesome meets, and that competition layer really driving home the learning. So we started off with a science and engineering challenge alongside SEC from the University of Newcastle. We then looked at how we might build our own sort of regional approach to these, and we shifted into a space where we were running engineering young Māori minds. And what we did there was we really needed an anchor to be a spine to those challenges that we were offering. And the spine, or the anchor, that we leaned into was pūrākau. Pūrākau, very similar to pūhoro, pū meaning the essence or source of something, and rākau meaning a tree, essentially. And so pūrākau are a reference to those roots that we have, and those roots being some of the ancestors that you'll see behind me, Rona Whakamautai, and Okatia being another one, and there's a few more that we might get to see in a moment. So we then decided to fashion our challenges around our pūrākau. And what we found was that our rangatahi know these pūrākau, but they've been quite often relegated to bedtime stories or Disney movies these days, and didn't really have much relevance into the STEM space. Around this time that we were looking at engineering young Māori minds, Pūhoro embarked on adding an additional M to our STEM acronym, which was a nod to the influence that Mātauranga Māori plays within the learning journey for Māori in STEM. And so that really was the genesis of the challenges that I will be introducing shortly. They morphed into what we call wānanga pūrau, pūrau being a relatively new term to capture STEM. That's a Leon Blake kupu, and yeah, widely covers that sort of STEM acronym. Wānanga mā pūrau introduces Mātauranga Māori alongside or in front of pūrau STEM, and so now we run Wānanga mā pūrau, and we use pūrākau as a spine for STEM challenges and engaging our rangatahi in these spaces. Probably gonna do a bit of a stop share now, and I've got 3 challenges that I'd like to introduce to those tuning in. The first is okatia. Now, okatia, is a pūrākau, a kōrero from the area that I reside in here in Te Papaioia in Palmerston North. And essentially it was a deity of sorts who occupied a massive tōtara tree. He resided on the other side of the ranges, on the sort of Pahiatua side of the Puketoi ranges, and he would wonder where the sun was heading at the end of the day on the other side of the ranges, and decided to follow it. On his way to follow where the sun was setting, he encountered what we know as the Ruwhiu and Tararua ranges, and that was in his way. And so he decided that that needed to be out of the way, and ended up breaking his way through this mountain range, and in turn creating what is known today. And I've got a little chuckle because I live out those ways, and we're currently looking at a replacement road through the Manawatu Gorge. So that gorge is the byproduct of Okatia's curiosity and strength and power. And eventually he ended up making his way up to Te Awaho in Foxton, where the Manawatu River exits. I am hoping one of my cameras will be able to capture this set of kit here. Now, this challenge with Okatia, we had the pūrākau in our minds first, and we decided to build something around it. We ended up with trebuchets, and so we, with our local, there's a few of them around the country, but in some of our public libraries, they have these maker spaces or these sort of tech spaces where you can go in and do some amazing stuff, 3D printing, fabric, all sorts of things. And we got some trebuchet kits built for us. And our trebuchet kits are basically, reenact Okatia, who in the form of our trebuchet launches projectiles at our yoga foam maunga, our yoga maunga, if you would. And so essentially our rangatahi are given a kit at the start of the day. They are then introduced to the pūrākau itself and really have to digest that. And it's actually quite interesting to see them engaging with these pūrākau. Some of them are quite familiar with it, but we like to add some tidbits of information that might eventually help them in completing the challenge itself. I'll adjust this camera here, try and get an angle. Essentially, they build their trebuchet. I might just quickly come into frame here, and they will work out the mechanism of releasing the projectile, and I'm pretty sure we'll be safe where this is thrown as well. But essentially, Okatia has a go at busting down the yoga maunga. And that's one of the challenges that was really formed around having the pūrākau in our minds first, and then looking for challenges out there that we might be able to build into the learning side of it as well. We can simplify. Actually, you'll notice there's a few different settings, a few different options for the build, so that can be done differently, and students can try adding different weights to basically get a perfected throw to see how many foam blocks they can knock over. We then introduced to them some of the science behind it, forces, but one of the sciences I wanted to lean into was this idea of how the Manawatu River was created. Now, gorges like the Manawatu Gorge are either formed by water breaking through, or they're formed by an existing river and the land around it rises, but at a slower rate that the river is enough to keep its pathway. And by science standards, the science says that the river was there first, or the gorge was there first, and the ranges rose beside it. And while that might be in direct contradiction to what Māori narratives understand as to how the gorge was created, what we then position the kōrero around for our rangatahi is, so what does that mean in terms of how you look after your river, how we engage with it, and the different views and perspectives that we can bring into the discussion around how it's used in the in the here and now, and how it's used in the future. Another challenge that I want to introduce is ngāhau or tāwhiri mātia. All right, give me a second. These are actually pretty cool. If anyone knows Teo Jansen, he has these amazing structures, these sand walkers or strand beasts, and managed to find some kits online where you could build these kits, and using a light breeze, create these amazing sort of, hopefully this captures it. Anyway, I forgot to bring the blower, so there's normally a better effect here, but what we have is our rangatahi are given kits, and their aim is to put them together. And the story or the pūrākau that we attach to this is around how hine ahu one the first woman was created. And the different atua who contributed different parts of her, so for example, Tāne ended up with the tihei, or the hongi, the breath of life. But the one we land on is the cleansing wind of Tāwhiri Mātia, which is essentially your respiratory system. So like the other, like Okatia, they're introduced to the pūrākau, and they have fun building that. Lots of moving parts, lots of fiddly bits to try and get right. And for those of us with bricks as fingers, it's a bit of a mish to get these things together. And so I probably just want to raise that because quite often with some of this gear, you know, there's costs to it, but then in the moment of discovery and learning, sometimes there's frustration, sometimes there's accidents to occur in terms of rangatahi who aren't perhaps quite getting things right and end up breaking pieces. And I think when I first started engaging in some of these challenges, I got a bit cut up when I would see some of our gear sort of getting thrashed. But I soon learned that actually that's part of that Māoritanga, that's part of that learning, is having the opportunity to try and make mistakes and learn from them. And so you'll see we've got these massive kits at the back where plenty of spare parts, so that if rangatahi end up having challenges or issues where bits and pieces can break and whatnot, that's not introduced to the conversation in terms of, oh, well, what did you do wrong here? So yeah, I figured I'll just introduce that layer. Now, unlike Okatia, this challenge was created by having the I guess the kit or the gadget in front of us, and then finding a pūrākau to go alongside it. So a little bit of a different approach to creating a STEM challenge with rangatahi on this occasion. I like now to introduce Ngā mata o te ariki. So Ngā mata o te ariki is we use microbits, and for those who have used microbits, they're very similar to the Raspberry Pis, mini computers essentially. And then what we have our rangatahi do is work on coding. And what we found actually is that this coding, this set of instructions can actually tell stories. And so we took the matariki kōrero that's become quite prominent in recent years, and we told a story about a young boy who had a dream that he visited each of those atua, those stars. And what we built into this challenge was having rangatahi visit a few of these stars to tell the story that's associated with that pūrākau. Now, I actually couldn't find the kits for this, so I had to just jump online and find some stars that I've used on the table here. And essentially what we'll do is we'd code just to visit a star and then have it tell a story about what's associated with that star. Now, just before I do go on any further, I think these are beautiful stars, but I just Googled them, and you know, the internet's a powerful thing in terms of access to resources. But there's also some caution that I just want to acknowledge around what resources are out there, and making sure that we're not ripping off some of our artists' mahi that's out there, and also that we're actually understanding what we've managed to find online. So, for example, this star here, which I've purposefully used as matariki, but if anyone were to recognise this design, it actually represents puanga, which is another star that's celebrated across a few of our iwi and hapu who don't see matariki at the time of the new year. Instead, they see puanga. And so I wanted to use this as a demonstration of, hey, when we are looking for resources that are out there, it really pays to have some awareness that some of the resources that are out there need to be treated with respect. Now, again, I'm purposefully using this as a matariki star, but I just wanted to use it as an example of making sure that I remind those that are tuning in that some of the caution behind them. So what I've coded this to do is to spell out the word matariki at the start. It'll then travel to this star, which I have called tupuarangi, which is a nod to anything above the earth. Could be birds, fruits that are high, anything above the ground. And here it will play a waiata. And for those of you who remember perhaps back in your primary school days or your kohanga days, the ruru waiata, e runga te rākau, i te pō, ko wai. The ruru song is what it will play. It'll then turn around and go to our next star, which is Pōhutukawa. And in the Matariki oratories, Pōhutukawa is the star where our beloved ones who have passed are taken care of. And so here, it'll end on a few love hearts to express that part of the story. So again, if I get this right, and if I go back to the code here, as soon as I press A, it'll spell out matariki. It'll then make its way to the next star and stop. And it'll then play a song, which I coded. And then it'll turn and then drive forward to the next star, Pōhutukawa, where it'll and it'll then show some love to our ancestors, our loved ones who have passed on. So hopefully this all works for me. And if I go on button A, I can see it spelling matariki. Should then make its way to Pūārangi. And it should do a turn and make its way to Pōhutukawa and throw them some love. How about? Might just get that there and come back this way. Yeah, that last one using the microbits, and actually the vehicle layer to the microbits are called McQueen's, and the coding layer to it, those are obviously pre-made kits that we've been able to see as being able to you know, in a crude way, to some degree, tell stories. And that exercise you can transpose onto all sorts of kōrero, from Tūrongo and his journey across to the East Coast to any journey, anything that needs to be going from A to B and then something occurs. There's a way to use that technology we've found to tell those stories. We find that one quite a dynamic piece of kit that's able to tell a range of stories. Just going to adjust that slightly. Awesome. And I probably just want to go back to my slides in one moment. Great. Whānau, there's a few challenges. We have a bunch, but those are a few that I've was keen to share with viewers or those tuning in this afternoon. Hopefully gives you some ideas for some of the things you might be working towards. Maybe it also supports some of the stuff you're already doing, in which case, or you know, keep up that good whawhai, that good fight. Because really finally this stuff sticks is what we've found. I want to probably end on a couple of notes here. The first is wānanga māpūro, sorry, e toringa mea. Te pakanga o Ōkatia, again, uses the local pūrākau and then finds a STEM challenge to accompany it. Ngā Mato Te Araki uses the tech, the microbits, to teach or engage the story. And Ngā Hau o Tāwhiri Mātia, again, pre-made, almost artistic kits, but still lots of physics and lots of moving parts that can be easily simplified and easily complicated depending on the audience in front of them. And probably I'd like to close off with a couple of points, which I call e toru ngā takeaways. Hei kai mā te hinengaro, which essentially means food for thought. And I probably want to position these three things for those that are thinking about how they might grow some of the levels of engagement you already have with rangatahi Māori and in the Māori space. And they're in no particular order, but actually, now that I look at it, maybe they are in kind of a order. So establishing some clear guiding values or principles from either your org or your own personal value systems. Again, we use pūrākau to anchor our challenges. I think it really drives home the message that our rangatahi are descendants of legends, literally. And that's quite a powerful message. It's quite a huge enabler for rangatahi to see themselves in the story or know that they descend from these amazing feats of discovery and learning and journeying. So have whatever it is that your school or your org holds on to firmly as guiding values and principles, and pretty good place to start. I think I just mentioned it before, just find what sticks, and then really drive that home. We've found that the competition side of things, the hands-on side of things, the idea that they can come and have a tutu, don't forget to look up that word, haututu, and you know, we kindly remind them to be kind to our gear, but we're not here to, you know, to really be too precious about some of the things that we've created here, because part of that learning journey needs to be that, needs to include this. And lastly, probably stepping back to some of our values and principles, grow your networks, strengthen your communities, and what you'll find is that the gaps that you have, others will be able to fill, and actually your own learning and understanding should should shoot for the roof, really. Yeah, there's so much power and unity. And so, yeah, I really go back to Pūhoro's values around he waka eke noa. And our mana houtu Kemp Riwiti, who have since taken hold of the reins for Pūhoro, is really seeing our future impact as being guided largely by all of those in the waka. And so if after this video you want to jump in the waka too, happy to be contacted perhaps, or if you want to have a yarn about some of the things that we've leaned into and that we've found that works for our rangatahi. Over 3,000 of them currently, with goals to increase that over the next few years. Yeah. One, go hard, and two, yeah, get in touch if you want to. No reira whānau, ko tēnei te mihi nui kia koutou, e whakarongo kaha, mai te timatanga, whainoa ki tēnei wā whakamutunga. For those of you who have enjoyed the ramblings of a coastie, but also the passion I just want to note the passion that I have for working with rangatahi, working in the space. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Tahuri.
Ngā mihi, Leland. That was an inspiring talk. And in the background, I actually looked up Haututu, so I had a good look at that, and I really connected with this as a tech teacher, because I think innovation and creativity in the classroom often also comes in hand with students being mischievous and inquisitive, right? So I felt like you nailed it on the head there. I'm just going to share our feedback form for people to scan if they wish to give us some feedback about what you might want coming up for webinars. Would love to hear from you. Yeah, so thank you so much. I love how you use pūrākau to inspire students. You might know that the NCA Level 1 changes include a lot of inclusion in Mātauranga Māori, and we've been doing a lot of work in technology in this space. And I've been running workshops around using pūrākau to, use them as creative starting points. So it's really reassuring to hear from the pros that you guys use this. So thank you so much. Okay, hopefully I've given everyone a chance to do that. Next Wednesday webinar will be actually in December, and it will be with Katie Cottrell. So she's going to cover marketry and creative-led practice. So look out for that one and mark that one in your calendar for 11th of December from 4 till 5 p.m. And we will finish off with a karakia. Kia mātou katoa, kua mutu mātou ia mātou mahi, ia mātou kaupapa hoki, arahina mātou kia kawa, mātou ia mātou haipapa, kia whakatapua mātou ki nā. Kaupapa me nā mea e whakapopo pono. Manaakitanga mai mātou. Nā mihi everyone. Ka kite.